I literally have nothing to say for this video. Nothing at all. I have nothing planned, but I will talk anyway because I think you guys deserve some updates. I don't really have anything to update you on, actually. Yesterday I was pretty sick. I made that video. Still am kind of sick, but I do feel better after taking like Advil and stuff. And I do think I'm getting a little better. Last night was rough. I woke up all sweaty and gross, and hoping that doesn't happen again. So, there was a book that I had. Its name was Sorrows of Young Werther, and I had it throughout like most of the London trip. Before getting back, about halfway through the trip, or maybe like 3/4 of the way, I lost the book. And just in the last couple days, when I wasn't feeling sick, so like what, 3 days ago, I went to a bookstore, and I went to a couple thrift stores looking for a copy of this book because I wanted it so badly. I didn't end up finding it at these used bookstores, but that's okay. And you might be asking me, why are you going out of your way to find this book like this? And especially since that there's an online copy of it for free. And what I've realized, and what I don't want to admit to myself, is I just don't read if it's not convenient for me to read. It's like we have no agency, no free will in this sense. At least I don't. I don't really want to admit that, but oftentimes we find ourselves following the path of least resistance. And for me, having that little book and having it in my back pocket all the time when I was walking through the streets of London, I'd just find a park and I'd sit down on a park bench. I'd read the book for an hour. Like, it was not hard for me to go out of my way to read this book because I already had it on me. But there's a little more friction involved with going online and finding the website and scrolling down to the page you're last at, and not to mention the experience of reading itself. There's something like more romantical about reading a physical book. That being said, after I lost that book, I looked for an online copy. This is during the trip, right? I looked for an online copy and it was free. It was right there. I was like, oh sick, I'm gonna read this now. You know what happened? I did not read the damn book. Not a single page of that book was read when I had access to it online. And it's the same really with everything else. I got several books while I was away on that trip, and I have yet to really open any of them, even though I want to read them. It's just, there's so many other things that I'd like to do. It just never becomes a thing that's in the forefront of my mind. And so, there's a book called Atomic Habits that I reference a lot, even though I have not read a single page of it. I've just heard reviews, I've heard people talk about it in podcasts and stuff. And I get the general, idea, I get the gist, which is, in order to form a habit, there are several key factors that go into forming said habit, and one of them is your environment. If you, I'm just remembering all the times I've watched videos of myself explaining this exact concept. This is not my first video explaining Gibsonian affordance, but those videos are more just like vlogs to myself that I like keeping to remember my past. Anyway, Gibsonian affordance, I'll explain it again to myself. It's the concept of changing your environment to facilitate certain behaviors. And the example that I usually give when explaining this to either myself or people is that I have my... You can see that right there, a book with a pen that stays on my desk. Every night before I go to bed, I put that book on my desk. and I move my keyboard out of the way, so I'm less likely to go to my computer and more likely to go to my book and then write in the morning. And that's been increasingly difficult over the past couple of days just because I don't I really feel terrible. So I haven't written today. I wrote at like 8 p.m. yesterday. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Anyway, in order to form these habits, you sort of need to change your environment, and with that environmental change, you then become more likely to do the task, or you're more likely to build the habit that you're trying to build. So I guess something that I could do is maybe put one of these books on my bed, or like take it with me, put it in my pocket, when I'm going out to somewhere. Another thing that's I guess sort of a habit that I've made an attempt at forming is taking more pictures. So I got this bag. I've made a review on it. It's the Tom Talk X Pack 1.5 liter. Great bag. Anyway, that's beside the point. I use it for carrying around my camera. And when I carry around my camera, I'm just bound to take more pictures. And that's something that I'd like because I'm really bad at memorizing my day-to-day life, and I can't for the life of me like recall things that other people can. Other moments that I've shared with people close to me, it's I can recall moments, but it's always fleeting. I can't remember things to the extent that they can, and I sure as hell can't remember specific details. The occasional moment comes up and it makes an impression in my mind, and I'm able to remember those. But things don't really impress me. They don't leave an impression as much as I think they do for the average person. So I'm just not super impressionable in that regard. And that sort of comes down to, I don't talk about this with anybody, really, but actually no, I do. But it's like in my mind, there's like a dampening of emotions, and I can't really like I can feel emotions, but it's just so dampened that they don't really leave an impression on my mind most times. It's something like either really bad has to happen or something really good has to happen in order for me to remember it in good detail. Even that doesn't just apply to making an impression in my mind, but it also applies to my reactionary behavior, reacting to these external stimuli. It has to be a very potent stimuli of great magnitude in order for me to feel the need to respond in such a way that that normal people would respond to it, I guess. So that's not a bad thing either. A lot of people think it's a bad thing. I like how I am. I like who I am as a person. And that's because I don't want to be emotional. I read these Stoics from the past, and I want to be more like them, and I should be grateful, because I am grateful that I do possess this ability to be less reactive to the things that are in my environment. I think a lot of these teachings and stuff, it's really hard because you can make improvements or like developments to such a goal, such as Stoicism, where you're like not very reactive to your environment and you're sort of separated from your emotions in a sense. But I think these people, such as Epictetus, such as who's that other guy? Not Aristotle, Marcus Aurelius. Those Stoics, they're probably born having that sort of affect about them. They're born not being super affected by their surroundings, and that's not to say that they weren't at all. I'm just saying that they are much closer to the end goal, which is Stoicism, than the average person. And so it was easier for them to get to that end goal in the first place because they had a shorter distance to tread. Now, I wouldn't call myself like super stoic or anything. I do my best, but it's always a battle. I don't really have much more to say on this at the moment, so I think I'll just end that thought there. But back to carrying books around. So like, yeah, trying to carry books around, like at the start of my London trip, I realized that that's how you get things done. You tailor your environment in such a way that it facilitates your goal. And in that case, that was me putting a book in my back pocket and just always having it on me to read. In the case of my photography, my videography, it was a case of me always carrying around my camera. You know, having a good place to put my camera when I'm not using it, and still having it always on me. Like having this crossbody bag was like, it gave me shoulder pain. I can't lie, it wasn't super comfortable. But that's neither here nor there. It gave me the ability to take my camera around with me wherever I went, and that in turn made me take more pictures. I'm talking in circles right now, but you get the point. So, in order for anybody really to get to the destination that they want to get to, it's not a matter of willpower, because we only have so much of that in the day, and almost all of it gets used up with just basic day-to-day decisions that have to be made. You know, like getting out of bed, brushing your teeth. I know these things don't really, maybe to the average person, these things don't seem that difficult. Maybe they seem trivial even, but to other people, I really think it just depends on at what point you are in your life, what you're experiencing in that specific moment. But it could be really difficult to, you know, just get out of bed and brush your teeth. You know, we sure as hell don't want to do those things sometimes, but it requires a lot of willpower in order to just, you know, do those. And then you have nothing left over to actually work on your goals, so you're sort of stuck in a time loop almost, doing the same thing over and over again, only mustering up the willpower in order to keep yourself afloat, and not having any excess in order to focus on the things that you want to improve on. So the solution to that is reconfiguring your environment in order to use less willpower on those things that usually require a decent amount. And not only those, you also reconfigure your environment in such a way that it's easier to do the extra things, right? The things that you don't normally get to do because, again, you don't have the willpower to do it after the day's done. A lot of people find themselves in a trap where they're like, I need to get a job, like me right now. And they're like, it's okay, because once I get that job, once I get the 9 to 5, I'll be able to focus on my dreams and my ambitions and stuff once I have that money rolling in. And oftentimes, like, Jesus, man, they find themselves in that trap where they go to that 9 to 5 and they're completely drained. They have nothing after
2 o'clock.
It's 2 o'clock. And so they convince themselves to get over that hump of putting in the effort to get that 9 to 5. But once they're in there, they have nothing left to really exude to. What's the word I'm looking for? They have no output left in order to do the things that they want. So they're just stuck in that 9 to 5 and they have nothing going for them outside of that. That's not where I want to end up. I want like I've said in previous videos, I want a fire under my ass in some sense. Because it's nice. A government job sounds good. Get a pension once you retire. Just put in the hours while you're young. Waste your youth. But at least you can retire with some money. You know? I was talking to a guy the other day. His name was Gary, and he was talking about this. He said, because he worked in some form of the government, he said it's like golden handcuffs, man. That's how they refer to it. It's golden handcuffs. you're like, man, just, 5, 10 more years of doing this crappy work that I hate, that's soul sucking, and then bam, I'm gonna get that pension money, and I'm just not gonna have to worry about it ever again. I'm gonna be able to retire good, and that'll be my life. But man, you only live once. So what are you gonna do, man? You only live once. You're gonna suck all of that life out of you? All of that life out of you just for money that you're gonna have when you're too frail to do anything with it? Man. Not the future I want. Some part of me feels like you'd rather be homeless. I know this environment, my mother's house, isn't ideal for me. I got back from that plane ride, felt fine, felt great. A couple days passed, still feel great. The day after, man, it friggin' hits me. I'm sick as a dog, right? And so that part of me thinks, man, it's not the airplane ride that got me, it's it's being allergic to this place. Now I know that's not sensible, but I think it's like a sign from the higher power that I don't believe in to say, you're too comfortable here, man. You gotta get out, get moving. And so that's what I hope happens. All right, that's all I got for today. I'm wearing my crappy shirt. I'm wearing my shorts. You can't see them. I'm not gonna show you my shorts. This is the outfit that I wear when I'm just not. I don't have my stuff together. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you can relate to some of this. I don't know when I'm. Yeah, goodbye.